I got this fancy bag for free as a promotion with the camera 6D Mark II, and also got a free battery, like a second battery. And I just came back from the body shop, so I took my actually I parked my car here, right? I parked my car at the parking lot, and then I called Uber. It was 28 bucks Canadian to take me to where my truck was, and then I drove the truck back, and there it is. So if you remember, what is it, like 6-8 weeks ago, I was hit at a parking lot on 401 en route, where the guy smashed my headlight and damaged my fender. So here's some pictures from those days. Please don't be scared. Everything turned out well in the end. That's how it was, and this is how it is now. See? So the headlight is back, and just because the connectors were broken in the bottom, they had to replace the entire headlight, even though it worked, right? And they took out the I think they took out the whole hood. So they cleaned up that damage over here, filled it up, repainted it, and also I think they did something here, because here there was some scratches in here. And I just backed like this to the trailer, but I did not hook up because I already received the new rate confirmation, so it's all set up for Monday. So Monday I have to be in Sarnia at the border, pick up the cheap wagon and take it to Michigan. So all is set for Monday. It's too late today. But one thing I'm gonna do here about the trailer, I keep noticing that this pin over here on the neck is really sticking out. And I look at the other side, and it turns out that this is supposed to be, this spot is supposed to be in there. You know? And it seems a bit loose. So let me see if I can hammer it in a little bit, because there's too much pressure on this pin. Okay. Or maybe I'll put it here. I hope my neighbor would not mind. We are just using his truck as a prop. But I just saw him. He was checking the engine on his Volvo. I said, the engine kaput? He says, yeah. Well, first we need some fancy gloves. So there was no tension. See, so now it's like this. So it's inside over there. And for comparison, and how I noticed this, as you will see here, see? But there's some pressure under this one. This one does not move, but that one was a bit loose. And so that's a little household chore. And my flip box is ready to go, so will be very useful with some you know, heavy loads, because this way I can flip it down and increase my wheelbase. And the trailer is sitting on blocks, because this way it's easier to hook up, you know. And that's what I do with hydraulic hoses. I just wrap them around like this and put some bungee cords, you know, when I'm not hooked up. So yeah, the truck looks like new. And they also did alignment, and all I had to pay, there was no deductible. They waived the deductible because it was not my fault, but I did have to pay the HST, which is our sales tax, 13%, which I will get back next month. And so basically it didn't cost me anything, but out of curiosity, hold on, it's so cold today. So today's Friday, April 26th, and it's only 8 degrees. 8 degrees. That's not good. Hold on, I'm gonna tell you exactly. Please don't fall. Challenger sounds good. Alright, I got a special calculator here, and some people were asking me what I'm using. Of course now it's loading something. It's loading. What are you loading here? It's loading some advertising, I know for sure. Okay, click again to quit. Quit. Get lost. Jesus, I just want to convert. Alright, so basically the screen looks like this, right? And you just enter, let's say 8. Boom, right away it tells me 46.4. Right? And then you can also click here. You see, and you can, you know, either use Fahrenheit to convert to Celsius, or Celsius to convert to Fahrenheit. Like, very useful, you know. Because for me, of course, I don't care about Fahrenheit, but I know lots of my viewers are Americans, and they're always confused about Celsius. So why not? Oh, and plus, you know, whenever I'm driving in the States and I'm, let's say, watching TV, right, and people are talking, you know, well, it's real chilly today in Florida, 75 degrees, people are wearing jackets. So then you know that something is going on there, right? So anyway, so I didn't work 2 weeks, right? So now it's time back to get to work, make some money. Like I said, I already got the rate confirmation, so they're gonna pay me what they owe me for this little last portion of the trip, which is cool. I will get money Tuesday. The factoring company has been notified, and I did my IFTA fuel tax for the 3 months, for the first quarter. I did my New York tax today, and yesterday I did my Kentucky tax, like for fuel, right? That's it. So all paperwork is done, and now I can basically focus on trucking. And there was a load yesterday. I was talking to a guy. Sorry, I see that it's a bit too dark because the camera was pointing at the window. That's the problem with these fancy cameras. You have to always check your, you know, aperture, your shutter speed, you know. But anyway, I was talking to a guy yesterday who had a load, some kind of big fuel tank, but it's like very weird, like just kind of like a big square thing, kind of like looks like a container, like one of those containers over there in the distance, you know. Just but it was 28 feet 6 inches, right? And I didn't see the picture, so first I said to the guy, like, what is this, right? Because he didn't specify what it was, and he says, well, it's a big tank. And I said, how much usable space does it need? And he says, I said, will it work with 26, like, you know, regular lowboy? And he says, well, let me ask him if they can send us a drawing. And so he sends a drawing, and it's pretty much the same as the container, except it has like 4 legs underneath. And he says it actually might need the exact same space, you know, like almost 29 feet. And so I kind of panicked, and I didn't even ask him about the money. Turns out later I found out that he was very cheap, so it's not even worth it. But I did email the Hale Trailer asking them how much that 5-foot deck extension would be, you know, because my trailer is modular, right? I can buy that 5-foot extension, because I keep running into these situations where they want 30 feet on the deck, you know. And actually it's useful with heavy loads, because again it increases your wheelbase, you know. But like this stuff, I don't know, Fontaine wants $14,000 US for a 5-foot section, you know. So we are boys and girls in their own business, you know. We should be building trailers, specifically components for trailers, because if you can ask people for $14,000 for a 5-foot section of the deck, you know, I think that's like the best business there is, you know, especially if people agree to pay that. But then turns out that rate was, and the guy says that load he puts Preston, Ontario to somewhere in Virginia. Okay, so I call him and say, hey, I was trying to see if there's any loads I can do, you know, quickly, like something short, and this was, you know, short. And he said, well, actually it's not loading in Preston, it's loading in Virginia. Like, wait a second, why are you putting Preston, the Ontario, as the starting point? Well, you know, it's hard to find trucks. If I put Virginia, not everybody wants to go to Canada. And so this guy is basically kind of like playing games, you know. And I said, okay, so you want me to go empty? Well, it's only 500 miles. Sorry. So, and I looked on the map, and this thing is 89,000 pounds. And it goes to Preston, and Preston is near Kingston. Basically, it's east of Toronto. It's where the Alexandria Bay, the Thousand Island Bridge is. And one thing I know about that bridge is that you cannot exceed, I think it's either 132,000 pounds or 133. But this thing is almost 90,000 pounds, you know. I don't know. I know my truck is 60,000, right? So there's no way I can go across that bridge. And so I told this guy, so yeah, it might be 500, like as a crow flies, as they say, right? But with this heavy load, you have to cross either in Quebec, in Montreal, where there's no bridge, or you have to cross all the way in Niagara Falls or Buffalo. By the way, that bridge, the guy says, should be open to oversized loads, the Peace Bridge. I talked to the supervisor. He says should be open like last third week of May. It'll be finally open, the Peace Bridge, which was closed since last year to all oversized loads because of construction. So now they should be done a few more weeks, because that's my favorite bridge. I always go there. I don't like going through Niagara Falls, but that's what we've been doing. And so I told this guy, I said, if you look on the Google Maps, that 500 miles, because you didn't take into account the limit on the Thousand Island Bridge, so now it becomes 700 miles, you know. And I said, plus you want me to go empty 500 miles, which I can do, I have no problem with that, but the load should pay okay, right? And the guy says, so what would you need? So I give him my number. He's like, oh shoot. So basically his number is like 1.5 times less, you know. And I said, 90,000 pounds to go into Canada, 700 miles, and you're offering this. And then I saw that load the guy posted on the load board. I see the price, and that just shows you that quite often brokers oversimplify things, right? They say, you know, oh, it's only 500 miles, and then you start looking into these little details which they don't know because they're sitting somewhere in Florida. So you always have to check. Always check the mileage and, you know, the actual route before you agree to something, because there's no way I would agree to move such a heavy load from Virginia, out of all places, to Ontario. And why? Because if you might remember, I had a couple of loads where I was basically crying because I agreed to move that John Deere 90,000 pound excavator for like $6 grand, you know, and then I paid like $3 grand in fees and escorts, you know, like, I'm not BSing you, you know. And so Virginia and West Virginia, over 120,000, you are a super load. And a super load means a bunch of extra expenses, and specifically escorts. They might need you to get a bridge monitor, like a guy or a girl shows up in a government beat up vehicle, you know, and they want another escort to just go over a couple of bridges at 5 miles per hour. And so sometimes you just gotta, you know, it's hard to keep it together when talking to freight brokers. But speaking about freight brokers, I was just talking to a friend of mine who's a freight broker in Alberta, and he says, Sergey, I think you should sell your truck and trailer and become a freight broker. You'll make more money. You can work for anywhere else, from anywhere, like US, Canada, especially if you start working for us. And their company, it's an American company that he's working for. And he says, if you're a broker working for a big US freight brokerage, they actually can give you like the, you know, not the green card, but they can give you the visa, like a temporary visa. And so I can be sitting in Miami, I can be sitting in Los Angeles, even though I'm Canadian, but because I work for this US company, I can, you know, just fly all over US and just broker freight. Sounds easy enough, right? Well, no, it's not. This guy I know, he works like 10-hour days, you know, but he has a big family, lots of kids, lots of cars, you know, big house, so he has to work hard. So no, forget it. I'm better at this. Driving one truck, one trailer, no drivers. So all I need is 3-4 loads a month. Thanks for watching.